What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel. On nootropics, on testosterone, on host of things. Look, if you're into performance as a male, brain performance, and otherwise, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to support us, you can go to livecortex.com and buy both of our nootropic stacks. If you need to hire me for coaching on male performance, you can do that at livecortex.com. All right, so let me just step back and sort of say, antidepressants, they can be very beneficial, right? Pharmaceutical ones for some people, and they can be absolutely horrendous for other people. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, for a variety of reasons, do not function great in the kind of mood department and would like to feel better. Look, if you feel really good, a lot of the time, you're going to get a lot more done and have a better life. So I want to talk about what I think, in my opinion, is one of the most healthy antidepressants in the world, and that is saffron. And I want to talk about all of the things that it does so that you have a detailed scientific understanding of exactly what it's doing and how it's giving you brain energy, performance, and mood elevation. So the nomenclature, which is the kind of scientific name for saffron, is Crocus sativus L. stigma. So saffron is an herbal spice that's grown around the world, but predominantly I think the best quality saffron comes from the Middle East and particularly Iran. I used to know this guy back in the day who rented an office in one of the buildings that I was renting an office in, and he had a saffron business, and he was Iranian, and he got all his saffron from Iran. Anyway, what it does is it modulates oxidative stress and has a direct down-regulatory action on some pro-inflammatory cytokines. Now I'm going to get to how that translates to brain function. It's actually way more connected than people give attention to. So let's talk about some of the literature. In a paper titled Saffron, an updated review of biological properties with a special focus on cardiovascular effects, summarizes the following points. Number one, saffron provides a variety of promising and preventative therapeutic effects on cardiovascular disease. Number two, saffron and its components can modulate various cardiovascular risk factors such as oxidative stress, atherosclerosis, and inflammation. And number three, and this is really important, saffron's pharmacological effects are mainly attributed to its cellular and molecular effects. Now, as an initial statement, what seems to be the most prominently effective or useful element of saffron as it relates to brain performance, because the stuff is going to make you perform better. And this sort of, purported antidepressant-like action is its control and removal of reactive oxygen species. So ROS for short, an unpaired electron, and then one oxygen atom. Now look, you make ROS naturally. There's a degree of ROS that happens in muscular contractions and a host of other physiological processes. However, once it gets in too far quantities, it contributes to cellular death, aging, and then subjectively brain fog, the lack of a good mood, kind of just feeling like you're in a crappy place, not being able to think. Reactive oxygen species do a lot of really terrible things in your body, not the least of which is denature proteins. They denature some of your proteins. And ROS does wacky stuff like reduce the bioavailability of nitric oxide. None of this is good for cardiovascular function or the brain, but this is where saffron comes into play. So let's break all this down and how it's directly affecting brain function and focus specifically on the benefits of brain performance, mood, and energy. Firstly, saffron makes other antioxidants work better, okay? So if you get vitamin C in your diet or otherwise antioxidants from perhaps blueberries and stuff that you may eat, if you're taking alpha lipoic acid or any other supplemental antioxidant, saffron will actually make that antioxidant work better. So that's one way, reactive oxygen species, if they're affecting cells, which I'm going to get to here in a bit because they absolutely do, that cause apoptosis, cell death, neuronal signaling inhibition. And if you remove a good degree of those reactive oxygen species, you're going to function better. But perhaps the biggest benefit to brain performance that saffron has to deliver is its anti-inflammatory properties. Basically inhibits a lot of very important and very invasive, insulting pro-inflammatory pathways. So that long exhaustive review on saffron also tells us the anti-inflammatory effects of saffron's constituents are due to significant inhibitory effects against cyclooxygenase 1 and 2 enzymes and prostaglandin E2 production. Moreover, I love that. Always makes you sound smart. Moreover, if you're in a conversation with somebody and you want to sound smart when you're saying something, just go, moreover. Moreover, attenuating endoplasmic reticulum stress signaling, blocking pro-inflammatory cytokines production such as TNF-alpha, inhibiting transcription factors like NF-κB, which intensify chronic inflammation, and suppressing inflammatory gene expression. So those are some of the bases for how saffron is executing its anti-inflammatory properties and how that would contribute to better brain function, better mood, and an antidepressant-like effect. Now, like, to break this down even further, because I think this is, when I learned about saffron, I was like, okay, but what is it doing? All right, but what is that doing? All right, so TNF alpha, what is that doing to brain cells? Let me explain. Studies on uninflamed or normal brains have generally attributed TNF alpha to like a neuromodulatory effect. But in contrast, if you have an inflamed brain, a diseased brain, there is an abundance of evidence that suggests that TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha, has a neurotoxic effect. Now, TNF alpha is a protein that your white blood cells make, and it's useful. It's useful in certain levels in response to kind of inflammatory insult. But in higher quantities, TNF alpha has a toxic effect on your brain. In fact, the research suggests that TNF alpha is one of the leading cytokines that contribute to neuroinflammation. I think there's a lot of disease states and a lot of issues that people have. They're like, they have this sort of like hunch, they've got like a hunch, like they have brain inflammation, right? You hear that kind of used, and some people are actually talking about it correctly. Some people, it's something else happening, and they're like, what is the real basis of like brain inflammation? It is a real thing. TNF alpha is one of the leading contributors to brain inflammation. And what it's doing, so looking further into the research, is TNF alpha in large quantities is basically leading to the death of neurons, otherwise known as necroptosis. But, okay, so out of the doom and gloom for a second, saffron has the ability to modulate a lot of these properties by downregulating these processes and specifically downregulating the function of TNF alpha in the brain. So that's going to have a pronounced mood effect, a pronounced energy effect, and a pronounced performance effect. And this proves a point. This proves a point that I often make. Yes, nootropics, obviously testosterone, anything that you can add in to affect brain chemistry, those are all good things. But in some cases, it's stuff that is insulting neuronal function that you want to remove, right? It's not just about adding things. You always got to look at the potential for what you need to remove. Have that tandem approach, well, then you're functioning like Bradley Cooper in Limitless. Now, one last thing I wanted to say is that people believe or attribute some of the neuromodulatory or particularly antidepressant effects of saffron to this potential for serotonergic or otherwise serotonin modulating activity. And from what I can tell, that's not true. Now, there is something to say for the carotenoids, because there's a bunch of chemical constituents in saffron, carotenoids, B vitamins. Those would be the most likely factors that would be when you're administering saffron contributing to the synthesis of serotonin, but otherwise it doesn't appear as if it's modulating serotonergic pathways in some major way. All right, so let's talk about dose ranges and how to use the stuff. I like to look at both the anecdotal reporting on this as well as the sort of literature-based or literature-backed dosing suggestions to formulate what I think is a good middle ground for a suggested dose for most folks. So I'll tell you what personally works best for me. 50 milligrams saffron extract. That's it. It's like 20, 30 minutes later, I get like a noticeable mood lift, right? It just like really does work for mood. I feel better in the area of like performing, especially in things where like brain fog would otherwise limit me, where I'm like, I don't want to do that. My brain is not working well right now. Mentally, I feel just a lot more clear, and I like to tackle cerebrally intense stuff when saffron is in the mix. I've actually been taking it for 2 years on and off, but I haven't decided to do a video about it. And somebody tipped me off recently. They're like, what? You should talk about saffron. So here we are. Putting my experience aside, because your N equals 1 is your N equals 1. That's all it really is. Again, taking the anecdotals and the literature-backed dose suggestions, what I would suggest dose-wise for people is to be between 50 and 120 milligrams. That's going to be the best dose for most people, considering dietary and otherwise environmental factors, and particularly like stomach acid. You have to think about the bioabsorbability and then the biousability thereafter, like how much of it actually ends up in your bloodstream and affects chemistry. The studies on saffron suggest somewhere between 40 and 70% of the extract is available for you to use. So therefore, the regular suggested doses of 20 to 30 milligrams, you probably want to bump that up again to 50 to 120 milligrams to get the best effect. That's my take on saffron. The stuff is awesome. It's pharmacologically effective and very useful at turning up brain energy, improving mood, which again is like critically important for happiness and functionality as a male and like as anybody. And though I wouldn't consider it a nootropic, it certainly has nootropic-like properties. If you appreciated any element of this content, subscribe to the channel. I just got recently notified by YouTube that only like 5% or something of the audience has notifications turned on. So hit the bell, please, so that when we pump out videos, it goes straight to your inbox. I wanted to mention that I am launching a testosterone replacement therapy guide. So guys that are thinking about going on TRT and are starting, and there's so much information out there. So I'm putting literally together a guide that will answer every single question that everybody has on starting TRT. So look forward to that. Probably talking about a couple weeks from now. I'm very aggressively writing it, taking nootropics and optimizing my brain to get it done. Otherwise, as you saw in the most recent live stream, we have 200 bottles of Torque to get rid of at a substantial discount. We just got a bunch of Torque in, so I'm looking at inventory going like, we can sell a lot of these for a massive discount. So right now, our loss is your gain. We've got to move a bunch of bottles of Torque. It's 30% off, friends. Torque is 25 minutes after administration, mental energy, clean stimulation, motivation, the energy to tackle tasks that you've probably been putting off. Beast Mode Activator Nootropic. You can buy it at livecortex.com. The link is directly in the description of this video, and the coupon code is 30 Torque, right? Going on all this week until we sell 200 bottles of Torque at this discount. That special will be live. All right, so if you're thinking about getting Torque, go buy it, livecortex.com. Use the coupon code 30 Torque and get 30% off the mighty Torque nootropic stack right now. You guys know the rest of the deal. If you need to hire me for biohacking consulting, helping you to put nootropic stacks together, to get on a phone call to discuss some of the issues that are plaguing your physiology and performance, or help you with testosterone, TRT, or otherwise, you can do that at livecortex.com. All right, friends, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you had a great weekend. On to the week. Let's go.